Welcome to the In Chamber, the place where we focus on the issues and people that shape business success. I'm your co-host, Rebecca Patrick. I'm the Senior Vice President of Communications for the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. Joining me at the microphone is Anthony Shutley, our Director of Communications. In Chamber is presented by the Talent Resource Navigator. Today, we are chatting with Marilyn Pitzulo from the Indiana Department of Workforce Development, or DWD, where she's the Associate Chief of Workforce Strategy and Design. Marilyn will share her story, what her division of the agency does, and how adult education can play an important role in meeting employers' workforce needs. We will also hear from some employers who are doing just that. Marilyn, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here today.
I believe you've been with DWD for more than a decade. Tell us about your background and experience. And you also serve on the governor's workforce cabinet, right?
That's correct. So my background, I have over 30 years experience in nonprofit and public service. The last 13, I've been with the state of Indiana at the Department of Workforce Development. I began my career with the state as a local adult education coordinator out in a region, and over a period of a few years, worked myself up to become the state director of adult education. I continue to hold that role, but also work now in our strategy division on some other projects at DWD.
Many employers have tapped into DWD for assistance and expertise at one time or another. Explain exactly what your role is and that of your area within the agency.
Sure. So I'm now the Associate Chief for Workforce Strategy at DWD, and we're working to align the programs that DWD offers across all of what we call the WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Network programs, to make sure that we're serving not only employers, but also the constituents that come through our Work One offices as effectively and efficiently as possible.
Let's dive right into the world of adult education in Indiana. We all know that improving the skills of adult learners is paramount to meeting the workforce needs of employers. But before we delve into too many specifics, Marilyn, how would you characterize where the state is with its adult learning population?
So in Indiana, we still continue to have over 400,000 individuals that do not have a high school diploma. And I look back over my decade of service, and that number has come down, but that's still disturbingly high for the population in Indiana. So we've done a lot of work, especially over the last several years, in trying to reach out, market our services to, and pull in individuals that might not otherwise think they have the ability to obtain their high school diploma or equivalency. There are actually 3 different programs in Indiana that offer services to individuals that don't have a high school diploma. What DWD works with is the high school equivalency program. And each year, somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 individuals obtain their high school equivalency diploma through our programs across the state.
Marilyn, give us a little context of where Indiana is nationally by comparison. Give us some numbers of how Indiana is doing and stacking up with other states on high school equivalency diplomas, learning levels, and so on.
That's a great question, and one that I love to answer. So Indiana is actually ranked number 1 in the nation and has been for the last 5 years in the number and percentage of individuals that obtain some sort of measurable outcome as a result of the services they receive through adult education. We call those measurable skill gains, and they include things like obtaining an industry-recognized credential, a high school equivalency diploma, a high school diploma, or some type of gain, educational gain of 2 grade levels or more. In addition to that, Indiana has been ranked either 2nd or 3rd in the last 3 to 4 years in the number of high school equivalencies that we produce as a state. That's really remarkable when you realize that the number and our population in the state is only, I think, 17th in the nation. So we're doing a really good job at reaching out to the population that we're supposed to be targeting.
Obviously, education can play a large role when it comes to personal prosperity. Where is Indiana? Where do we rank when it comes to wage increases?
This is another great metric for Indiana. When individuals come into adult education, approximately 40% of them are working in some role somewhere. A year after they exit from our programs, over 70% of those individuals are working in the labor force. So we're really proud of those metrics. We've also seen significant increases in the median wage for participants in adult education, increasing about $2,500 a quarter over the last 4 to 5 years. What that means, Rebecca, is that someone that gets their high school diploma will earn on average between $9,000 and $10,000 more a year than without their high school diploma.
That's such an obvious correlation, such a big deal. The disparity. It's, I know we think periodically about this, and how can we get more people to pay attention to that? How can employers or others beat the drum to make this resonate? Do you have any thoughts on that, or what is DWD doing in that regard?
So one of the things that we heard several years ago, and we've heard this for many years, right, is that employers are not getting the individuals that they need, that have the skills that they need to do the work that they need done in their businesses. The other thing we heard at the same time was our adult education providers saying they were struggling to get enrollments and to get people to participate in classes. It seemed like a common sense move to begin doing adult education programming at the employer work sites, gearing what it is that we teach in adult education to the needs of the employers, while still meeting the needs of the student who needed to get their high school equivalency diploma or upskill some deficit they had in education. So we're really proud to say that last year we served over 180 employers with classes on site that ranged from English language acquisition classes to high school equivalency classes, and even into some career certification classes, all at little to no cost to the employer.
That's great. Progress in general clearly isn't going to be made in silos. It takes cooperation and partnerships. Let's hear from one employer about a specific partnership that's proven very helpful. This is Kimberly Alsep-Gard, Manager of Physician Offices at Ascension St. Vincent Medical Group in Evansville.
About 3 years ago, before actually COVID hit, we started experiencing an extreme shortage with medical staffing in general. There just wasn't enough resources for people to go back to school. There were a lot of layoffs going on, so a lot of single parent incomes and things like that, so there wasn't a lot of resources. And there was a partnership that was coming up as far as the adult education for Vincennes University reaching out to Ascension, said, hey, I think we have a program that maybe you're interested in that will help pay for these individuals to go back to school and become a CMA, and that would benefit your bottom dollar to help keep those offices open. I actually managed the float pool for those offices that needed those resources, and it was a no-brainer. It was a win-win for everybody. It developed the workforce for Evansville. These individuals got to see potential in them that they couldn't see before, and it was phenomenal.
Marilyn, talk a bit more about the effort Kimberly mentioned, and perhaps any other DWD partnership that you wanted to know that's available to Indiana employers.
Sure. So the Vincennes University program that she references is a service that we provide called Workforce Education Initiatives. And this is where we will come into a business and customize a training based on the business's need, so that we can contextualize the instruction, we can add in credentials that are needed, at the same time as we are upskilling the basic skill needs of those employees. Again, we have about 180 employers, and about 20% of our overall enrollments in adult education are these employer or what we call integrated education and training partnerships.
Now, a quick word about our sponsor. The Talent Resource Navigator is a new free online tool that offers the convenience of one-stop shopping for education and job training opportunities. Supported by on-demand customer service and technical assistance, the Navigator intentionally guides and connects individuals and employers with a tailored set of talent development resources based on each user's identified needs. Details at talentresourcenavigator.com.
Marilyn, before we get to our next employer, I wanted to tee things up regarding what's an increasingly key part of our workforce. Those for whom English is not their first language. What resources are available to make those workers more in demand, more productive, and to assist employers?
This is another great question. We know that employers are looking everywhere to fill the needs that they have in the workforce. One population that's coming to the forefront these days are those individuals, immigrants, who do not speak English. They're very interested and willing to work, and with the assistance of English language acquisition services. So this is where DWD can come in and help a business to access that population, bring English language classes on site, contextualize those classes around quality and safety, and bring a workforce in that an employer might not otherwise think about.
Here are two employers to relay a snapshot of what they're seeing. First is Luis Enrique Aldre. He's an HR specialist and Spanish interpreter at Dormicaba, USA in Indianapolis.
We have a lot of people now from South America coming into work at Dormicaba. So, and they have amazing backgrounds. We have people with master's degrees, we have medical doctors, engineers, everything. But they were missing the English language. And now this program that we are doing through Warren Township has helped them, have access to different levels inside the organization. And their contribution has been amazing.
Now let's hear from Chris Cervantes, Progressive Materials Director of Manufacturing in New Albany.
We want to pour as much value or create value for the employee as much as we can. So I think this was a great opportunity for our employees who struggle with English to get involved with. So I think that's the basic footstep to get them to go where they want to go in life. So the program helped us a lot because now we're able to communicate with them efficiently, and not only just me with them, but also every department, safety, quality, production. We're all able to communicate with one language. So it's helped us a lot. It builds confidence on the employees, and also builds a lot of value that they can take on if they decide to go on to somewhere else.
What strikes me, Marilyn, as we continue this conversation, is really how adult education can help any and all industries. And it can be more comprehensive or specific, like with the learning English language. Expand on that, if you will.
Right. So what adult education providers can do is sit down with an employer and identify what the learning needs are for the population they want us to serve. So we have an example of a medical enterprise in Southern Indiana that found that their individuals were unable to appropriately measure, which was really important to the production process. So we were able to come in and do some real basic skill math, fractions, decimals, which helped improve the quality of the product coming off of that line. In other areas of the state, we've done very specific safety training in English language with English language learners to help make sure that the individuals were really safe on the floor and could understand safety guidelines. We're also seeing a lot of need for digital literacy in the workplace as we transition HR processes to devices and to computers, and helping incumbent workers understand how to use those devices. Those are all examples of work and training that adult education can bring into the workforce, again, at little to no cost to the employer.
Let's turn to how employers can get adult education involved in their business. Where do they go, and are classes and curriculum available everywhere? Fill us in on that.
Yes, actually, adult education is a statewide program. There's a provider or a class in all 92 counties. In addition to that, we do have online resources available as well that we can connect to the business. And we have a network of over 45 different providers that are covering all of these counties. You can reach out to adult education providers directly. You can reach out through DWD. And another resource is to reach out to adult education through your local Work One offices that are also statewide, have a statewide network.
You mentioned earlier about, I believe there's 180 occurrences where you worked on site with employers instead of them going somewhere else for adult education. Could you give some examples of those in practice?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so across the state, as I said previously, we have over 180 classes that are actually on site with employers. We have quite a few in advanced manufacturing, and these include both English language classes as well as high school equivalency classes. We also have several other sectors where we see a lot of this work being done, the healthcare sector through some of our hospital corporations, where we are coming in and upskilling janitorial and housekeeping staff into critical need areas for hospitals and healthcare providers.
It's important to also note that with adult education, it isn't all about targeted to specific coursework. It also includes vital things like soft skills that are in so demand for employers. Hannah Price from Vincent's University's Adult Basic Education offers her thought on that.
Adult education does more than just teach someone how to get their GED. We work on soft skills, which are those employment-ready skills that employers are looking for. And we know the job market right now is not great. So even in the adult education classroom, we're trying to create the best employee that goes out there with education and with the job skills that they need to fill these roles. So I think it's important that everyone knows that adult education goes beyond just the textbooks, the math, the science, the social studies. We're trying to create, great community members that can build up their community, fill those job roles, and just better their community altogether.
Marilyn, where should an employer start the conversation about adult education? Is it with a local group, with WD, a combination? What would you recommend?
So what I would recommend is whatever is most convenient to the employer. You can reach out to DWD directly, or you can reach out to one of the close to 50 adult education providers that are across the state.
The General Assembly and state made pretty big investments in adult education as part of the budget this year. What specifically are you most excited about and believe will have the greatest impact?
So I think the most exciting thing for me ties directly to the employer partnerships. So we did receive an increase in funding in the biennium, and we hope to increase the number of employer partners, potentially doubling that number over the biennial budget. Not only will this increase our enrollments in adult education and try and touch more of that 430,000 individuals without a high school diploma, but it will also benefit the economy in general by helping employers to upskill their workforce.
You mentioned earlier about Indiana's top ranking when it comes to high school equivalency diplomas. Amy Wood, the Lafayette Adult Resource Academy Executive Director, has a final thought regarding that program and a request to employers.
On the high school equivalency side, I tell all the employers, I know that you're all looking. And I know that it's getting hard to find those workers. And I said, so they're opening it up and saying, I'll hire people without a high school diploma. I said, fantastic, great, thank you for doing that, but don't do them a disservice. Have us come in, we'll partner with you, and we will make sure they get that high school diploma that they deserve.
Marilyn, this has been such an informational chat. A lot of good ideas, a lot of good best practices out there. Leave us with a couple key takeaways for employers.
So everything that Indiana adult education is trying to do is really focused on long-term economic outcomes for the Indiana economy. we want to work with Indiana employers to help upskill your workforce or give you opportunities to hire a workforce you might not otherwise consider. So we would really love for you to reach out to either your local providers, a Work One office near you, or our adult education team at DWD.
And go ahead, Marilyn, make sure all the employers know how to reach you, reach the services at DWD.
DWD Adult Education can be reached at 1-866-220-6675 or via email at adulted@dwd.in.gov.
Marilyn, thank you again. This is a timely topic for sure. And thank you to all the others who contributed their remarks. In Chamber is presented by the Talent Resource Navigator. As always, thank you for listening.